I'm live. It says I'm live. I guess I am. I hope everybody out there is doing well. Let's have some coffee. Oh, that's just that. There we go. Oh, I spilled. My regular mug's in the dishwasher. Oh well, such is life. Here we go in 3, 2, 1. Good morning, everybody, and welcome. Today is Thursday, May the 7th, 2020. My name is Jeremy, and this is my first cup of coffee. Maybe I should have a backup mug. I mean, I have so many mugs. Should I have a backup coffee mug? A backup first cup mug? Should I make a different first cup mug? I don't know. I'll think about that. Basically, my mind has been completely off product for 2 months because nobody's buying anything. So I haven't really thought about it. We've retired a bunch of product because all of our stuff's limited edition, all of our apparel anyway, and promised this stuff's getting retired. But I haven't made anything new because it feels, I don't know, something feels wrong about it. There's something that feels wrong about launching new apparel right now. So I haven't been. Maybe a coffee mug's different. Hope everybody out there is doing well. Hope you had a great Wednesday and you're looking forward to a great Thursday. I know I am. What's going on today? Client meeting. All the work I didn't do yesterday. Yesterday was not the most productive day. I scratched the surface on doing the books. I update my books for my personal stuff, for whistlekick, for my consulting stuff every week. And I got through a little bit, maybe a third of it. That's okay. So I'll do that today. And I'm gonna do some more training. Different kinds of training. Martial arts training this afternoon, probably this evening. But before I knock off work for the day, I'm going to start doing some other training for my consulting business. Figure this is a good time to earn some certifications. If people aren't going to be hiring me, giving me new jobs right now, I might as well have some more credentials that go with my name. Why the heck not? And you can do the same thing with your martial arts. Maybe it's not a credential, but it's a good time to work on the stuff that you're not great at. Because you're home. Although some of you, depending on where you are, might not be home. Some of you might be getting out and about because stuff's getting relaxed. Regulations are getting pulled back. What else did I do yesterday? I went for a walk. Made salmon burgers for dinner. I worked and I went for a walk and I ate. That was it. Had a couple calls with just a couple people looking for some advice. One being a martial arts school, curious about how they might handle their typical summer away camp for their kids. And we talked about a number of different things with keeping it local or bringing it online. And it was a great conversation. I do what I can to help. It's cold again. I don't think it's as cold as it was last night, or the night before, because there was a frost when I woke up yesterday. But it's cold out there. It's still thinking a light frost on the grass. I think it was like 28 last night. Come on, Mother Nature, let's do this. I got plants to grow, and I got comments and questions to read. Remember, if you want to ask me something, you want me to respond to something, post it below, and I will answer it tomorrow. Oh, and I also have to shave because I'm getting hairy all over the place. Too much hair. Yesterday, this is all courtesy of Frank, thank you, Frank, was National Nurses Day. The nurse is temporarily the consciousness of the unconscious, the love of life of the suicidal, the leg of the amputee, the eyes of the newly blind, a means of locomotion for the newborn, knowledge and confidence for the young mother, a voice for those too weak to speak, and so on. Virginia Henderson. Well, that's a pretty powerful quote. I've known a number of people who have worked in the medical profession, and I've known a number of nurses. And I would say nursing has to be one of the most difficult jobs. And I say that as someone who's never done it and someone who's spent very little time in a hospital. But that quote kind of sums it up, but it doesn't talk about the emotional piece. The love of life for the suicidal. How is that suicidal person treating the nurse? When you think about the contact that people in a hospital have with others, who do they have the most contact with? It's nurses, generally. And when we're sick or hurting or scared, what do? We lash out. So nurses are taking a lot. They're taking a lot of abuse. And I've heard some of these stories from nurses. And I just want to thank them. Because it's not an easy job. It's not a simple job. It requires far more knowledge than people give them credit for. Doctors are always celebrated in society. Nurses so rarely. And yet there are circumstances where a nurse who's been around for a while has more experience than a new doctor. There are times when a nurse sees something that a doctor doesn't. And that's not to say that one is better than another, because they're both necessary. It's all necessary. But nurses are kind of front lines. They're the infantry of the medical profession. It's a job I would not be able to do. I don't do well with people yelling at me. I don't do well with gross stuff. Yeah, basically between those two things, I would not be a good nurse. I'm someone you want when you're not bleeding from the head. That's not my skill set. Next quote. Nurses quietly go about their work in noble profession. Uncelebrated soldiers, toiling through the days and nights in service to the sick, the injured, and the dying. Steve Lopez. Well, there's that same comparison to a soldier that I just made. I didn't read these ahead of time, as you probably know. I usually don't, because I like to be fresh. Uncelebrated soldiers toiling through the days and nights in service to the sick. If you've ever taken care of someone who's ill, even if it's a mild illness or maybe a pet, you know what that feeling of service to someone or something you love is like. And it might not be simple to do what you need to do, but it's an easy decision, right? You give them what they need. You give them what you can. But what about when it's a job? To be able to tap into that and then put it down 8, 10, 12, whatever hours later and go home, it's difficult. And unfortunately, not everyone does it well. Interestingly, I have some experience with this. I've generally been drawn to, in my dating life, women in the medical industry in some way, whether that be nurses or doctors or occupational therapists, nurse practitioner. Yeah, there have been a lot of women in the medical field that I've dated over the years, and not all of them are able to put it down when they come home. And that can be a challenge on a relationship. But I think that says a lot about the person, right? That they are so dedicated to their job and to caring for others, that that is their first priority. And we need people like that. It's a pretty remarkable personality trait. Come on, load. Yesterday, oh, so here's an aside. So I talked yesterday morning about how the live show Tuesday night did not go well. Yesterday I committed to upgrading our internet. The upload speed will be 5 times faster than it has been. Download speed, which has not been a problem, will be 24 times faster. So, and the price only doubles, plus a little bit, like 2.1 times more. So, could be worse. Honestly, I expected it to be more expensive. Always thank your nurse. Sometimes they're the only one between you and a hearse. Warren Beatty. I think it's important to thank everyone. And I do my best to thank everyone, and you probably hear that in the show. I try to thank everyone who leaves a comment or a question. When someone emails in from any of the shows that we do, I try to thank them for watching, or listening. I try to thank people for their purchase when they buy something. A little bit of gratitude goes a long way. And I know what it's like to feel taken for granted, and I expect most of you do. Probably all of you do. To express a little bit of gratitude to someone who is likely overworked, like a nurse, stressed, and often feels unappreciated. And I'm speculating on that last part, I don't know. But I could imagine that if I worked in that industry, I might feel like I wasn't really valued in the way that I wanted to be. To be grateful, I think, is important. My father's got some medical stuff. He lives in Ireland. I don't know that I've ever talked about my father on their show. My father lives in Ireland, and he has some of this stuff, and he's in and out of the hospital. And now, obviously, I haven't seen my father in the hospital. We're not really close. But before we moved to Ireland, I saw him interact with servers at restaurants and salespeople. And as you might imagine, he tries to keep people entertained, and he expresses gratitude. And so he's told me these, asked me how he's doing, and he gets along well with the nurses. He treats them well, and they like him. He was in there for a while. They were trying to figure something out with his foot. And he would go for walks around the hospital. And I asked him, I said, all the nurses know you yet? And he said, 100% of them. And I suspect that's not just because he'd been there a little while, but because he's the type of person who takes the time to engage and interact with people and have a conversation and show gratitude. The most important practical lesson that can be given to nurses is to teach them what to observe. Florence Nightingale. Teach nurses what to observe. We can bring that one back to martial arts, can't we? If you're sparring, where do you look? Do you look at someone's feet? That'll tell you if they're going to kick, but you're probably going to get punched in the face. Do you look at someone's eyes? Some styles teach that. Not in a style that permits low kicking. Most people are generally taught, depending on the school, the system, the style, to look somewhere in the torso. I was taught to look around the navel, because if I look there, I can see everything. I can see the hands, I can see the feet, I can see the head. And I'm sure no matter what you do for work, there are things you have to pay attention to and things that maybe are less important to pay attention to. And I can imagine that in medicine, depending on the symptoms, you're paying attention to quite varied things. But the thing I expect, no matter what the condition, would be important to pay attention to is what people say, their words. Not just the words they use, but how they use them, when they use them, the tone behind them. I would imagine that's pretty important. I am by no means equating anything I have ever done to anything in the medical profession. But I suspect I have a small inkling of what it is like with regard to this comment, because as I coach martial arts, fitness, etc., movement, and people have things that are hindering them, joint pain or muscle pain or whatever, I've been able to utilize some of my experience to help them. But that requires asking questions. It requires having them do things and describing to me and having conversation. And sometimes it's a hunch. Sometimes there's clear data, evidence to show what should be done. Not always. Know where to put your eyes. And our final quote for the day. Constant attention by a good nurse may be just as important as a major operation by a surgeon. Ooh, Dag Hammarskjöld. Some sort of Scandinavian name. Dag Hammarskjöld. Skjold? I'm not quite sure how to pronounce it. SKJ. That's a string of letters we don't have in English. Constant attention by a good nurse may be just as important as a major operation by a surgeon. How many conditions are there where you need a little bit of care, but frequently? Think about what happens when, well, imagine someone in recovery after surgery. You know, they've got to be kept clean so they don't get infected, and turn so they don't get bed sores, and any number of things. Constant attention. And how much of that constant attention for people who are awake is, if they're bedridden, really the only engagement they get with other people. Most of us know what it's like now to have far less interaction with other people. I don't like it. I suspect you don't like it either. Even if you live with other people, you're probably seeing the same people. Having some interaction with others is important. We all appreciate that. Nurses provide that too, on top of all the other things they do. It's pretty awesome. Now it is Thursday, so I'm guessing, hoping, episode 499 is up. 499. Wow. Yep, here it is. The last 5 years. In this episode, we talk about the history of whistlekick. We talk about the show. We talk about so many things. So go check that out. Remember, Monday, Episode 500. I got to check in on that. Hoping I'm going to see a draft today. So, all right. Now remember, if you have a question or a comment, drop it below, and I'll answer it tomorrow. If you're new to the show, subscribe, turn on notifications. We do the show every weekday, 6:30 a.m. Eastern. And if you want to support what we're doing, patreon.com/whistlekick, or go to whistlekick.com and make a purchase of something. Thanks for watching. Thanks for giving me people to talk to while I drink my coffee. I hope you have an utterly fantastic day, and if there's a nurse in your life, say thank you for me. I'll see you back here tomorrow. Take care. Peace.